Hello, everybody. I welcome you all to day 9 of our exploration through wonder questions. And today, our topic is the Roman civilization. And we have traveled a certain journey. Last Friday, Saturday, Sunday was a holiday. And last Friday, we had talked about the extraordinary Greek civilization. So, let's again recall that Greek civilization was a time when there was a lot of depth that had come, so much depth had come because of the great thinkers like Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, and that had also been spread by Alexander. Without knowing, he had spread that culture all over the places where he had established kingdoms, his disciples had established kingdoms. So wherever he had gone, he carried that Greek culture with him. But more than that, there was a lot of thinking that had been done, and man had come of age. But remember, he was still a kind of early man, you know. So it was like a explosion, like man has found himself, that whole power of man. And you know about the Athens and Sparta, the conflicts that came. The conflicts that came with the Persians and how Greek fell. The next civilization was one of the most key things which you have to understand is the next civilization which came, Roman civilization. Roman civilization was a kind of, the way I understand and the way most historians actually would agree, was a kind of unfoldment of a kind of the Greek civilization. So the Roman civilization is what is called a bridge between the Greeks and the rest of the Europe. So today you do have a distinctive Western civilization. So I think the credit for that goes to the Roman civilization, because they carried it over to the whole of Europe, number one, along the way, directly or indirectly, number one. Number two, they also established a certain political structure which was a kind of further refinement or establishment of a certain political structure in the world. Whether they did it perfectly or not is not the issue. The idea that there can be a political structure and was shown by the Romans, the way I understand and the way many historians also maintain. So I'm also following the NCERT textbooks, and I'm trying to give a deeper meaning to what is actually written there with the same depth. So I'm trying to communicate that. So you have Greeks as a bridge between the Romans, as a bridge between Greeks and Europe. And who are these people in the Roman civilization? They were in Italy. And again, there also from North Africa people came, Spain, France, Indo-Europeans, even Greeks, Etruscans, and they were the early Italians. And they learned from the Greeks. What did they learn from the Greeks? They learned the alphabet, they learned the religious beliefs, they were touched by the philosophical beliefs, they learned the art, and they learned the architecture. This was the 6th century BC. And after Greek declined, we have seen that last time, Rome reached the peak. Roman civilization reached its peak. In 1000 BC, in a place called Latinum, that's why the word Latin has come, the early Romans they started off in terms of a proper political structure, and that time the political structure had three things. This is very interesting. The interesting thing about Roman civilization, as I have already explained to you, is that they gave a solidity to a political structure. So they had a king, they had a senate, and they had an assembly. Now, king was a king, as in every civilization, but the senate is a very interesting concept here. They were strong, powerful men who had a certain lineage of being powerful. Power with Romans became strong. Unfortunately, the concept of power, the concept of holding, the concept of even arrogance of power, the concept of misusing power, which is actually natural. Once you have a huge political structure, you also have a very powerful power. So then again the powerful clash. So you have to see history like that. That's how I understand it. So you have the Senate, which had powerful, and you had the assembly of people. The people did not have that much power, but the Senate was very powerful. They could even overrule the king and the rules of the assembly. That is very interesting. It's like a lobby, what we call a powerful lobby. Power with Romans became both a boon and an extreme disease, as we'll see after some time, which actually led to its downfall. By 6th century BC, interestingly, it became a republic. King was overthrown. It became a republic, which is very interesting. And that's what I'm telling. The Roman civilization was very interesting because it was ruled by men. Now, there are two ways to look at it. One, to look at it positively, I would say men were taking self-determination, and that kind of self-determination is a very profound point according to me. To think of ruling and governing by oneself is a certain kind of positivity. This negativity is man's nature. Again, power corrupts, as they say. Power goes out of bounds, as they say. And remember, if power goes out of bounds in 21st century, there is no excuse. But it was then. Man was just coming out into... You have to see human nature not as a ready-made thing. Many people make the mistake of thinking that man is divine by birth. Man is not divine by birth. Man and men have to learn every single thing with a lot of pain and suffering and learning. There is no automatic man who is there ready. And the wonder is not that there were... I look at this world not as a... This again, I'll follow Steven Pinker's Enlightenment Now book. And he says it's not how we look at the world negatively. There has been even Bronowski's book, The Ascent of Man. Look at the ascent of man. From that point of view, you will not be that biased then. So you will have the more balancing thing. If you focus on man, human nature, what it needs, what it requires, and how it grows, if you focus on that fact, you will have a balance. So by 265 BC, the whole Italy came under what they called councils, and that had the Senate and the Assembly. And the Senate was very powerful, and they were in charge of all the activities in terms of the army. They held the army, they held the law, they were in charge of justice, they were in charge of taxes or money holdings. So they practically actually held the whole country into their own hands. So that is one thing. Then there was another. Now we come to the negative aspect of the Roman civilization, the patricians and the plebeians. Now the patricians and the plebeians, there were two classes. One class was the landlords, the senate, the farmers, landlord and senate. Landlords had land according to by law their own. So obviously this is a feudal system. Again, the feudal system comes here, raises this ugly head. The landlords in the senate, they control the senate. They were powerful people. Power means literally power, naked power. Who are the people who were suffering? Farmers and soldiers and artisans and all the people who are actually working did not get the right produce. Most of the money was taken by taxation by the powerful rulers. And by the 5th century, again, you see the contradiction. So you can see the Roman civilization was a mix of contradictions. Again, by 5th century, some regulations came because there were a lot of protests by the plebeians. And by 454 BC, one remarkable thing which happened was the law was coded. According to many historians, this is a very big turning point in terms of politics and law. Law was coded. Law codified means there is a certain surety, stability, morality, solidity, peace, all this comes in. Law properly done, properly carried out, gives a whole political structure. It's not a small thing, it's a huge idea. To have an idea about a state, to have an idea about law, to codify it is not a small thing. I think this is the biggest achievement whose value can't be measured. Law codes came in, and those law codes made it possible for a certain kind of justice. At the time, Romans wanted to conquer other lands. They were very powerful, and there's a very famous wars they waged with Carthage wars with north coast of Africa, and they are called the Punic Wars, that lasted from 264 to 146 BC. And they conquered Carthage and they put it on fire. And this was the most ruthless and bloody wars there can be. And one more negative aspect of Roman Empire began now. Negative and positive again. The bad effect was that there were lots and lots of slaves. And what they did with the slaves, because of the ruling slaves idea in the beastly man, let's say at that time, slaves of war, they had to do all the works. They lived in horrible conditions. The inhumanity towards the slaves was terrible. And they were used for shipbuilding, they were used for workshops, roads, agriculture, you name it, and they were there, the slaves. It was a slave society. Romans were ruthless towards slaves. So here is where power became completely corrupted. The morality came so down, it was like a spiraling down and down and down. And there were uprisings. The very famous uprising, you must have seen the movie also, 73 BC, Spartacus with 70,000 slaves he inspired, and for 1 year they fought and they were again suppressed. So there was a lot of, the army was very powerful. And finally in 46 BC, Caesar became the dictator. He battled Pompey. There's also the famous love affair of Caesar and Cleopatra. But 2 years later, 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated. That's a famous story. And Mark Antony, Lepidus and Octavia, the relative, the grand nephew of Caesar, he came to power. They killed Brutus and Cassius. They slayed them, and by 37 BC, Octavia took the rule. His name was also called Augustus. There's one interesting thing here. This was the time of Roman peace. A little bit of peace came. Augustus ruled the land with a lot of wisdom, and then after that there were dictators till 284. The end came 161 to 180. Marcus Aurelius was one interesting dictator only, but he was a very wise dictator, Marcus Aurelius. And they were famous philosophers also. Here also philosophy flowered in its own way. There was Epicureanism and there was Stoicism. Cicero was a great writer. Marcus Aurelius, meditations. And law. Law is the law codes, and law came to fruition. And by this time, at the end, how did it end? By that time, next class we will continue this, because why did the Roman Empire come down? How did Christianity affect? We'll talk about the story of Christianity, Christ and Christianity in terms of history in the next class, and we'll also connect it to Judaism, which came before that. Next class is Judaism and Christianity. So once you understand that, you will understand the real causes for the downfall of Roman Empire. Roman Empire finally became the western and eastern part, and finally they accepted, Constantine accepted Christianity as the official religion of, and one part of it was Byzantium. The Byzantine Empire came into existence, Rome fell. It was a decline of the Roman Empire. This was the whole journey of the Roman Empire. So as you can see, the way I see from a historical perspective, and the early age, this is the Iron Age. And with this in the West, you can say an era ended and a new era, the medieval era started, and unfortunately it was worse than even the Roman Empire. Why was it worse? Because Roman Empire had elements of rationality combined with beastliness, but faith took over. This is a very, very difficult concept to understand. We'll understand it in the next class. Faith, ruling men by reason or force, is less violent than ruling men by beliefs and burning and not allowing any thought to come. Not allowing any thought to come became the rule, not in the East, in India or or this side of the globe. In the Western, it was a huge, long, dark ages. And that is the dark ages which came after Christianity. Christianity became a political power. We'll see in the next class how what is Christianity as a religion, what are the profound elements of Christianity, how Christianity and rationality also are deeply, I don't know how you can understand the Western civilization without understanding Christianity. and politically. I'm not talking about only the religion, and also religious beliefs. It's hold on people. Even today, what is holding America? Why is that America is always being generous? Why is that America is always called to fund other countries? There's a deep-rooted Christian values guiding the Western civilization. And because Christians are missionaries, they have traveled all over the world. There is a lot of missionary zeal in Christianity and Christians to spread that message. And even Christianity was reformed later. They had to look within also. They tried to find out the sins they committed. And that's why you came up with the counter-reformation and reformation. Catholic Church itself questioned. They also, if you go to do the courses which they give on theology, theology is like philosophy of religion. In theology, they talk about sins of the church. So church committed sins. Everybody committed sins in the past. So if you notice, I would like all of you to notice the stark difference between the modern world and the past. This is again highlighted in Steven Pinker's book. I'm always coming to Steven Pinker's book because there's a lot of rationality and research gone into it. If you observe, the past was very violent, especially in the West. Even in India, it was violent in a different way. There was a strict segregation which continues to. Many people say India there's no violence and we're very tolerant. To be tolerant is also violent, because if you tolerate everything and you include everything yet maintain a caste system, that itself is a kind of mental violence, because it doesn't allow a man to flower. If you take a man-centric view, if you take a view that man should rise, there should be an ascent of man. In India, there was no violence, but there was a suppression of thought. In the West, there was violence and turbulence and lot of it, but miraculously, the violence actually, though many people would not agree with my view, the modern age has far less violence. You will see it in history, and a lot of violence still is continuing, because as we see here also, the power is centered in a central authority. So definitely this is a very human nature's tendency to take power, get corrupted by power, take more power, do brutal acts politically, has been the mainstay even till today. Today also you have seen the terrible violence of Hitler, Stalin, based on belief systems of communism. So belief systems do play a lot, big role. Even in terms of capitalism, there was a lot of violence released by so-called capitalists who wanted to conquer other lands politically. Definitely one of the obvious lessons we have already learnt is that political violence or political authority or political control always leads to the downfall of any era. That's what happened to the Romans. So you might have a lot of good things in a society, but if the power is concentrated on a few people or and if also you add beliefs to it, which doesn't allow thought to come, oh, that was the most terrible form. That terrible form of slavery happened after the Christian rule. That's called the Dark Ages. When I say Christianity, I don't mean Christianity the religion. I'm talking about Christianity as a political power, because truths are beautiful, great intentions could be there, but hell can be paid with it. So next class will be a continuation of this, because Christianity is part and parcel of the Roman Empire. As we have seen, it ended with Christian rule, and that Christian rule was legalized by a Roman emperor, Constantine. That's how it ended, and that's how the Byzantine part came, and the Western Eastern separation came in the Roman Empire. This is the syllabus also. In terms of syllabus, our NCERT syllabus also, we have covered the salient points. So this is for today. Today we'll have only this much, but let us sum up. In the next class we'll go for Christianity and Judaism, and we'll also cover the Chinese Chinese civilization. That will cover. We have already covered Buddhism, India, so we would have covered India, China. One or two we'll leave that we have or just touch upon, and then the next class will go to medieval world. In the medieval world, there's a medieval India, medieval China, medieval Western. Once we cover the medieval society, the modern society is closer to what we are. So you have your revolutions and your industrialization, flowering of science and enlightenment, and the ending of the church rule, and the Reformation, and socialism, and world wars, and today. So that is broadly the journey. I'm just reminding that there's a story ahead. The story stops for a while now. So if there are any comments, you can put your questions and comments there. Some of you have given good comments. Thank you so much. I would like more people to respond. It would be better if we'll know how you're feeling about this course.